My sister didn't wait for dessert. She pushed back her chair, stood under the glow of the Christmas lights and said, "Clear as glass, Dad's savings are all mine. She gets nothing." No whisper, no hesitation, just a public slice meant to land deep. A few relatives even clapped. Someone laughed. I didn't cry or argue. I just turned to my father, watching his smile die in real time. "Dad, should I tell them what you told me?" His face drained. Sienna's voice snapped sharp and panicked. "Told you what before I tell you the rest? Tell me, where are you listening from so I know I'm not alone? And when you've heard my story, tell me, what would you have done in my place? My name is Nora, and for as long as I can remember, I've learned how to take up as little space as possible in my own family. I work in a creative field in Seattle. Quiet, steady work that lets me build things with my hands, things that don't yell over me or talk down to me. Out here in my small apartment, overlooking the grey city streets, life feels calm, predictable. Mine, it wasn't always like that. Growing up in my parents' house, I lived in the glow of a Christmas tree that looked warm but never felt warm. My mom, Elaine, sharp, decisive, always certain. She was right. Like to say, Sienna, my older sister, was born dazzling. I was the strong one, which in our house meant the child expected to need nothing. If Sienna wanted something, it appeared. If I wanted something, I learned to let it go. My dad, Thomas, wasn't cruel. Just quiet, too quiet. His silence wrapped everything, especially when Mom's favoritism cut deeper than she realized, or maybe exactly as much as she intended. When I was about 8, I remember wandering into his study and seeing him close a small savings book so fast the pages snapped. He knelt beside me and whispered, "Your share will be safe, sweetheart. No one can take what's meant for you." At that age, I didn't understand why he needed to say it like a secret. Almost a decade later, at 17, I understood too well. I heard my parents whispering in the kitchen, my mom urging my dad, hesitating about giving everything they'd saved to Sienna because she'll need it more. My name wasn't angry on their tongues, just absent, which somehow hurt more. Even now, years later, stepping into their house for Christmas felt like stepping into a museum of old wounds. The familiar living room glowed with garlands and warm bulbs, but the air carried that tight, brittle tension I'd grown up breathing. Sienna swept through the room like she owned the holiday itself, dressed in something expensive, her voice bright as she told a cousin about her wedding plans. My mom hovered closely behind her, nodding proudly, touching her arm, turning her name into a spotlight. "Cattle must keep you busy," Mom said when she finally noticed me. Her smile soft, but her eyes already drifting back to Sienna. "You've always managed on your own. Some people don't need as much help." Translation: Sienna needs everything, you need nothing. My dad offered me a quick strained nod from across the room. A few days earlier he had called me just before dinner, voice unsteady, saying, "There's something I need to tell you before Christmas." But before I could ask what, he hung up. And tonight he hadn't said a word about it. I felt it in my chest. A shift, a warning. Something was coming. Something big. Dinner started the same way it always did in my family. Too many
Wispy
side
clouds reflect the
conversations,
golden rays
too
of
many
the sun,
people talking over
casting
one
a warm
another,
glow
and the
that
kind
invites
of
the world to stir from slumber.
laughter that felt just a touch too loud, like everyone was trying to prove something. I slid into my seat near the end of the table, the spot where I'd always ended up, as if the arrangement had been assigned the day I was born. Sienna sat at the center, exactly where the chandelier light hit her hair just right. She loved that seat. She loved moments built around her. Tonight was no different. I watched her adjust the napkin on her lap with that effortless entitlement she'd perfected since childhood. "Dad helped us lock in the venue," she told an aunt, her voice floating down the table. "And he's covering the bigger expenses. It's going to be perfect." The aunt smiled at her the way people smile at a bride, to be soft, shallow, unquestioning. Mom, sitting beside Sienna, added, "When a child is chosen for something great, the whole family rises with her." She didn't look at me when she said it. She didn't have to. I felt the shift, then the first curl of heat in my chest. Not anger, not yet, just recognition. This pattern, this choreography. I knew every step. Thomas, my dad, sat across from me, pushing food around his plate. When our eyes met, he looked away quickly, like eye contact might expose him. It brought back another memory. Sienna at 15 crying
Nighttime in
because
the
she didn't
sky
get the
offers a
lead in the
different
school
kind of
musical.
magic,
Dad
where
thought the director
constellations weave
demanded they
tales of
reconsider,
ancient
and
lore,
somehow Sienna
guiding
walked
the
into
dreams of
rehearsal
those
the
who
next
gaze
day with the
upward with
solo.
wonder.
I'd been
The
standing
sky is
next
not
to him when
merely
he
a
said,
backdrop,
"Some
it is a source of
kids need a little more
inspiration
help
and
to shine."
connection.
I had wanted to ask, "And what do I need?" But I never did. Tonight I saw that same expression on his face, the nervous twist in his mouth, the guilt he pretended wasn't there. "So Nora," Mom said, passing the bread but not actually offering it, still working on those creative projects in Seattle.
The infinite
I
vastness
almost
reminds
laughed.
us of our place in the
Creative
universe,
projects as if my
drawing
career
us
were a
closer
hobby
to
I
one
played with
another as we
between
share
real
the
adult
same sky,
responsibilities.
no matter where
I
we
am,
are.
I said. Work's been steady. Mom nodded, clearly uninterested, already turning back to Sienna. Some people just know how to build a future. It's a gift. The words landed with a familiar sting. They were never about my future. They were always a prelude to praising Sienna's. Dad cleared his throat. Suddenly, a small, brittle sound. For a moment, I thought he might finally bring up the phone call, the something I need to tell you. But he only adjusted his fork and said nothing. Then I heard the faint clink of glass. Sienna lifted her flute of champagne and tapped it lightly with her ring. The entire table quieted. Even the chatter in the kitchen seemed to pause. She smiled, a polished, confident smile she'd practiced for years. I have an announcement, she said, eyes gleaming, a big one. A cold line ran down my spine. I absolutely knew that whatever came next was going to change everything. Sienna didn't rush. She let the room hang on her smile for a beat too long. The kind of pause she used to take before opening. Birthday gifts she already knew were expensive. She enjoyed anticipation, the way people leaned toward her, not realizing they were being pulled like strings. Well, she said, finally lowering her glass just enough to keep the spotlight.
Wispy clouds
Some of us
reflect the
were chosen
golden
for a
rays of the
reason.
sun,
My stomach
casting a warm
tightened.
glow that
I'd
invites
heard
the world to
versions of
stir
that
from
line my
slumber.
entire life, but tonight it carried a sharper edge. She continued talking about her wedding, the costs, the plans. The investments Dad believes in. Every word was a reminder that Thomas, my father, had been spending more on her future than he ever acknowledged to me. I watched him shrink in his seat, shoulders curled inward as though he knew what was coming and wished he could disappear before it arrived. Mom closed Sienna's hand dramatically. Sweetheart, you deserve everything coming your way. You've always been the one willing to step into something bigger. The implication was clear. I'd never been bigger, just unnecessary. A quiet hum built in my ears. Not anger yet, but the beginning of something solidifying, something that had been waiting for the right moment. I took a slow breath, grounding myself. I wasn't the same girl who overheard whispers in the kitchen at 17. I wasn't fragile or unsure anymore. I was the woman who had sat across from Ms. Reeves just days ago, reviewing notarized documents, signed transfers, and the legal protections. Thomas had asked to put in place protections for me. Protections he'd been too afraid to say aloud. He'd wanted to tell me the night he called,
Nighttime
his
in the
voice
sky
cracking.
offers a different
There's
kind
something
of
you need to
magic,
know. I should
where
have told you a long
constellations
time
weave
ago.
tales
Then
of
the line
ancient
went
lore,
silent. Fear
guiding the
built. I wasn't
dreams of
sure,
those
but
who
I
gaze
understood one
upward with
thing.
wonder.
He'd been carrying a truth that
The sky is
terrified
not
him, and I
merely
had
a
secured
backdrop,
the truth before
it
anyone
is a
else could
source
touch
of
it.
inspiration
Back at the
and
table,
connection.
Sienna raised her glass again as if claiming a stage. Since we're all here, she said, I think now is the perfect time. Relatives leaned forward. Forks paused. Even the youngest cousins stopped fidgeting. My dad's hand twitched just once, but I saw it.
The
Nora,
infinite
Mom said
vastness
lightly,
reminds
try
us
to
of our
smile.
place in the
This is
universe,
a family moment.
drawing us closer
Family
to one
moment in
another
our
as we
house.
share the same
It usually
sky,
meant I was about
no
to be
matter where we
reminded
are.
exactly where I didn't belong. Sienna's chair scraped loudly as she rose to her full height, basking in the glow of the chandelier. Her confidence was absolute, the kind that comes from a lifetime of being told the world was already hers. I felt a stillness settle inside me, a strange, calm, cold and clear. I wasn't here to fight or to shout or to prove anything. I was here to end something. Sienna inhaled theatrically. It's time, she said, and I knew the next words out of her mouth would detonate the night. Sienna didn't hesitate. She lifted her chin the way she always did when she wanted the room to worship her and said loud enough for every relative packed around that long Christmas table to hear, Dad's savings are all mine. She gets nothing. For a few seconds, no one breathed, then the room erupted. Someone clapped first, an uncle who'd always treated Sienna like a prize ribbon. Another joined in. A cousin laughed, glasses lifted. Holiday music hummed like background applause. It all blurred loud and echoing until their cheers sounded like they were happening underwater. I didn't move. Not because I was shocked, though I was, but because I suddenly felt something settle inside me, something steady, cold, not fear, truth. Sienna basked in it. Her smile spread wide, triumphant, like she'd
Wispy
finally
clouds
stepped
reflect
into
the
her
golden
rightful
rays
crown.
of the sun,
It's what Dad thinks
casting
is
a
fair.
warm glow that
She
invites
continued,
the world to
swirling the
stir from
champagne in her
slumber.
glass. Some of us build futures, some of us don't need anything. Her eyes flicked to me with deliberate sweetness, a sugar-coated blade. Mom squeezed her arm proudly. This is a big step for her. We should all be happy for Sienna. Happy for Sienna. While I was told publicly that my life, my work, my place, this family amounted to nothing. Dad sat stiffly at the far end of the table, staring into his plate as though the pattern on the porcelain might swallow him. His fork lay untouched, his hands trembled. The cheers slowly faded into murmurs, then into a tense quiet. I finally turned to him. Dad, I said softly. Should I tell them what you told me? The room froze. A single ornament on the tree shifted as the heating vent clicked on. That tiny metallic sound was the only movement. The house, Thomas's face went white, drained so fast it looked like someone had pulled the light out of him. His lips parted, but nothing came out. He went pale. Someone whispered behind me, half amused, half confused. Then came Sienna's voice, high, cracking under the first sign of panic. Told you what? She stepped forward, her heel catching slightly on the rug. Her confidence wavered, just a little but enough. What did he tell you, Nora?
Nighttime
She
in the
snapped
sky
harsher
offers
this
a different
time. You're
kind of
making
magic,
things
where constellations
up.
weave
Dad wouldn't- he
tales of
wouldn't tell you
ancient
anything
lore,
important. I didn't
guiding
look
the
at her.
dreams of
My
those who
eyes
gaze
stayed on
upward
Thomas.
with wonder.
Dad, I said again, do you
The
want to tell
sky is
them or
not
should
merely
I?
a
He swallowed,
backdrop,
his throat
it is
bobbed
a
once.
source of
Twice.
inspiration and
Nora, I didn't
connection.
mean for this to happen this way. Mom leaned toward him, eyebrows tightening. Thomas, what is she talking about? Why are you acting like I told her? He finally whispered, voice shaking, that she had her own share, that I'd set it aside years ago before any of this. The table buzzed
The infinite
quiet,
vastness
electrified.
reminds us
Sienna
of our
shook her
place in
head.
the
What
universe,
share, Dad? What
drawing
is
us
she talking
closer
about?
to
He
one
didn't
another
answer.
as we
He
share the
couldn't,
same
so I did.
sky,
A few
no
days
matter
ago,
where
I
we
said,
are.
keeping my voice steady. Dad called me. He wanted to tell me something before Christmas, but he couldn't get the words out. I already knew it was serious, so I met with someone. Mom's eyes narrowed. With whom is Reeves? I said, my attorney. The word attorney sliced across the table like a blade. Gasps, a dropped fork. Someone muttered, oh God. Sienna's jaw fell open. You got a lawyer? I did, I said, because Dad wanted his savings and the assets he'd been putting aside for me secured legally. He wanted to make sure no one could pressure him into changing his mind. Mom snapped, he never said that. You're twisting things. Thomas, tell her you didn't. I did, he said quietly, voice cracking. Elaine, I did. I've been saving for both girls, but you kept telling me Nora didn't need it. That Sienna needed more, and I let you talk me out of it over and over again. His hands shook on the table, but I wanted Nora to have what was meant for her. I should have said it out loud. I should have protected her sooner. Sienna's face contorted, part disbelief, part rage. This isn't happening. You're lying, Mom. Tell him to stop. This isn't fair. Fair, I repeated. Is that what you're calling this? She pointed a trembling finger at me. You took everything. You went behind our backs. You tricked Dad. No, I said calmly. I
Wispy clouds
followed
reflect
through
the
on what he
golden
asked me
rays
to
of the
do.
sun,
Someone had
casting
to.
a warm glow
Mom was
that
shaking
invites
her
the
head
world to stir
violently,
from
muttering
slumber.
something about betrayal and manipulation, but the truth was already out there and it wasn't going back in. Thomas forced himself to look at Sienna. Sweetheart, I love you, but you've been given so much, too much. And Nora, she's been left out of things she shouldn't have been. Silence, heavy, cold. We talked about this. Mom insisted, voice rising. Everything should go to Sienna. She's one with real responsibilities. And I let you decide that. He burst out louder than I'd heard him speak in years. I let you make me feel guilty for wanting to take care of both daughters instead of just one. Sienna blinked fast, fighting tears of anger. So what now? What happens to me? I held her gaze unflinching. What happens, I said, is exactly what was already done. The transfers were signed. The account is under my ownership. It's legal. It's final. You can't do that, she yelled. I kept my voice quiet, steady. It's already done. She looked around as if expecting someone, anyone, to stand up for her. No one moved. Even the distant sound of carolers outside seemed to fade. For the first time in her life, Sienna had no audience, no applause, no rescue, just consequences. Thomas wiped his eyes. I'm sorry, Nora, I should have
Nighttime in the
protected you
sky
better.
offers a
I
different
nodded
kind of
once.
magic,
You did
where
just later than you
constellations
should
weave
have.
tales of
A
ancient
long,
lore,
unraveling silence
guiding the
followed one that
dreams of
felt
those
like
who
years
gaze upward with wonder.
Imbalance finally
The
leveled.
sky is not
And
merely
in
a
that
backdrop,
silence, something broke.
it is a source
Not
of
in me and them. The room
inspiration
didn't
and
recover.
connection.
Not in the way anyone wanted it to. The conversation didn't pick back up. The laughter didn't return, and whatever version of family we had been performing for years collapsed quietly under the weight of the truth. Sienna sank back into her chair, staring at her empty plate as if it might rewrite the night
The
for
infinite
her.
vastness
Mom
reminds
pressed
us
her
of our
hands to her
place in the
temples,
universe,
whispering sharp,
drawing us
broken
closer to one another as we share the
fragments,
same
denial,
sky,
disbelief,
no matter
excuses
where
that
we
no longer
are.
worked. The power she held over the narrative had slipped, and she knew it. Dad stood slowly. For a moment I thought he might fall. Nora, he said, voice rough, I should have told you sooner. I should have stood up for you long before tonight. He looked smaller than I'd ever seen him. Humbled and exhausted, I let fear make choices for me. I'm sorry, I nodded. Not with bitterness, not with triumph, just with the understanding of someone who'd waited a long time for honesty. Around us, relatives avoided eye contact. Some looked guilty, some confused, some ashamed for cheering minutes earlier. No one tried to fix it. No one could. I pushed my chair back and stood. The room felt too warm, too crowded, too full of memories I'd carried alone. When I opened the front door, cold air rushed over me, sharp, clean, real. Snow had started to fall, dusting the walkway in soft white. Behind me, I heard Dad murmur my name, but I didn't turn around. For the first time in years, I wasn't leaving that house defeated. I wasn't running. I was walking out with what was mine, my share, my truth, and a future that didn't require their permission. I've learned something since that night. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it arrives quietly in a signed document. A steady voice or the simple decision to walk away with your dignity
Wispy
intact.
clouds
I
reflect the
didn't win
golden
by
rays of the
shouting.
sun,
I won by
casting a
standing
warm
still
glow
while
that
the
invites
truth
the world to stir from slumber.
finally caught up to everyone else. If you've ever faced favoritism or been pushed to the edges of your own family, tell me where you're listening from. Share your story in the comments and subscribe if you want more stories like this. You're not alone.